Dobro utro, friends. It is very early here in Sofia, and today I am going to immigration for the second time. The Google reviews were not lying when they said that this was not a friendly place in Bulgaria, and you know, maybe just, I don't know, something I was unaware of, but I feel like they're asking for things that aren't really a problem. So the first time that I went, I actually had my amazing consultant Marchela, who helped me with this move, who is a local, go with me. And by the way, I greatly recommend getting a local to go with you, because you know, the English level there for some reason isn't good. It's very strange that almost any other business you go to downtown, like especially if there's young people, they speak perfect English. But at the one place where they're probably supposed to help foreigners, somehow it's a problem. So she went with me last week, and they asked for an update on basically 4 different forms, like just to have the form re-registered. Like it was already, you know, valid when I applied for my visa D literally less than 2 months ago, and they were saying how, oh, this document needs to be like within the last month. And both of us were like, this isn't possible. Like, if we would have gotten this document to be valid within the last month, the visa like processing time in Canada was a whole month. So how is it possible to have it issued within the last month and apply for the visa D? But you know, you can't argue with these people. You kind of just gotta do what they say. So I had to take like 4 or 5 days, have my lawyer reissue the main document that they needed. We had to redo the insurance and add 2 months because they were so particular that it needs to cover exactly these dates. And my police report, like basically my criminal background check, they said that it needs to be like translated and apostilled in Bulgarian, which that one, okay, I kind of can, you know, technically understand. But it's also weird because like I went through this whole process already for the visa D. Like all the papers that I'm submitting right now, they've already all been checked by the Bulgarian consulate in Canada. I was approved for the visa. It took a whole month. So now you're telling me I need to submit all of that again here in Sofia. But now somehow those documents like need to be updated and aren't good enough, even though they were just approved. It's very confusing. It's very confusing. Like I said, if you are doing this, get a local lawyer, or at least like have a local friend go with you who speaks the language, because going by yourself, as I am today, we'll see how it goes. Marchela, bless her heart, was actually going to drive in again today, but as you can see with the weather, it is like a slippery winter wonderland. She's currently in Bansko, which is usually like a 2.5 hour drive, but with this weather it's like 3.5, and I don't want her to be out on the roads when, you know, they're icy like this. So I told her, no, just like, you know, stay back, and once I'm, you know, in the office, if there's any problems, I'll call you and you can talk to them. But hopefully there won't be any problems. Like, I got all the forms. I got everything they asked for, so they better not ask for anything else, because if they do, why didn't they tell me that last time? And at the end of this video, I'll actually introduce you guys to Marchela, because when she came in last week, we actually did a really great interview, so stay tuned for that. So guys, just in front of me is the migration office. It's called Moles Migration. I'll put it on the screen so you know where it is. But before I go in and get my number, I am going to go right here, which, you know, says migration office, but it's actually a place where you just get like photocopies or print things off. And since I have those new forms, I need to make copies of the originals. So make sure before you go into the migration office, have 2 copies, you know, just in case. You'll probably only need 1, 2 copies of every single form that you're applying with. All right, guys, so I got my copies. The lady in there was super nice. The line doesn't look nearly as bad as it did actually the first time I'm here, but they open at 8:30 a.m. so I recommend getting here as early as possible in the day. And obviously I can't film inside, but you go in, you go to the little yellow kind of, you know, thing where you get a queue number, and if you're like me and have a visa D, you pick option number 2 for booth numbers 18 and 19. Once again, you know, better if you go with a lawyer or something to help you, but that's just what I have to do.
1 hour later.
Well, I did it. Or at least I hope I did it. So the lady takes my documents. You know, once she realizes I'm an English speaker, she doesn't ask me anything, and she's just like looking over my forms, making sure I have everything, and thankfully, you know, looks all good. Everything is there. So then she says to me, Casa 10, which would usually mean like Casa number 10. And so Casa number 10 is kind of like in, you know, a place where a bunch of people are waiting, but then she kind of pointed to where the payment is. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe it's 10 leva to pay or something like that. So I don't know. I go over there and it's actually 16 leva. So okay, whatever. I pay 16 leva. After that is done and I get a receipt, the lady there kind of points back, and I forget which word she used, but I did understand it. I understood that she said, like, go back to your same counter. So I go back, I show her the receipt, and then she starts entering all of my information into, you know, the system or whatever. She puts a stamp in my passport. Then she circles the date 29 on the calendar and like points down. So I assume, okay, come back the 29th. Initially, I would think that that's absolutely fine. Great, everything's submitted, good. But Marchela told me that no, like usually it's like 2 or 3 days that they should, you know, be ready to have you back again, sometimes for an interview, sometimes just to take your picture, and then you're issued the residency card. 2 weeks seems kind of, you know, like far. And so I called Marchela when I was outside, you know, of the building, and she's like, no, like something's wrong. It should never take that long. So I go back into the building and like go up to the lady. She does not look happy to see me. And like I have Marchela like on the phone. And so I try and hand the phone to her and she won't talk to her. Like she won't take the phone. She just says like, no telephone, no telephone. And I'm like, lady, like, come on. Like I can't understand you. Like, you know, like throw me a bone here. And so then Marchela says, put me on speakerphone. So then I put her on speakerphone, and then finally the lady like talks to her. So it is, as you know, I assumed, where I come back on the 29th, we do the photo, all the things. But yeah, that is like substantially longer than it usually takes. Marchela said she has never seen them, you know, take so long. So I don't know, guys, like, I'm sorry, but this is just so crazy to me that, you know, everything else here in Bulgaria has been like amazing. The people are so great. But the one place that you would think that officially, you know, should speak English, should be, you know, helping foreigners, it's a whole thing.
3 weeks later.
So I felt like it was necessary to do one last update on my immigration because round of applause, basically 1.5 months since I applied here in Sofia, I finally got my residency card. And I would like to add, to be completely fair, that the third time I went, so after the time that you guys saw when like all my documents came through, the third time I went, I was absolutely shocked that the people I got that time were actually quite nice. And get this, guys, they even used some English. I could see them really trying. I really appreciated it. as I said before, like I'm trying to learn some Bulgarian. If you didn't already know, like I can make out about 20 to 30% of writing because I speak Russian. And when people speak to me, I understand like a little bit, but it's definitely a work in progress. So obviously I understand this is their country. I should learn their language. I was just saying that in an immigration office, you know, you kind of expect people to know, you know, the international language. So to give a balanced sort of perspective on my experience with immigration here in Bulgaria, the third time was much better. It was very streamlined. And then this fourth time that I just got back from, I finally got my residency card. So that is a huge accomplishment after all the work that was put in basically over the course of 9 months now. And honestly, a big portion of that work was not me. It was Marchela and it was my lawyer. Because if I did not have them, I don't even know. So, is Sofia immigration just terrible to deal with? No. Could some things be better? Absolutely. And to be fair, to add, you know, even more balance into the mix, I have a friend who just moved to Paris who has an EU passport. And she has been having a hell of a time. She has been having a hell of a time with the French immigration there, and she's literally in the EU. So, you know, I don't think dealing with immigration anywhere in the world is usually fun, but, you know, some places are better than others. So I just wanted to add that little bit of positivity into the mix. Oh my goodness, guys, it has been a long time coming. My lovely friend and consultant, Marchela, we finally meet in real life because we started talking probably over a year ago. Yeah, and then I hired you when I was still in like Southeast Asia. We made the plans to like do all of this, and now we're both actually here in Bulgaria. Yes. So yeah, it's amazing. And like you're originally from here, of course.
Yes. Not Sofia, but
yes, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I felt like she was the perfect person for the job. And now we are going to enjoy some very American brunch together. All right, guys, so we just finished our delicious avocado toast, and I'm going to hand the mic to Marchela. And for anybody who's new to my channel, could you just tell the people a little bit about yourself and what it is you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Marchela Georgieva, and I've been an accountant for over 10 years now. And what I actually specialize in is helping people who run their own business, predominantly location-dependent people, to change tax residencies in order to lower their taxes and essentially grow their wealth. So a big part of my work is helping people map out all the options that they have when it comes to personal tax residency, and then seeing what those options are, and then essentially just helping them decide out of all these options what makes best sense for their current situation, both personal but also for their business. So sometimes we have to restructure businesses, we have to set up businesses somewhere else depending on what the situation is and what's most efficient. And I also help people implement everything in place. So it's not just, you know, a matter of making all these big decisions, but also making it actually happen. So in a very quick nutshell, that's what I do.
So that is amazing. But could you actually also tell us about your personal story that, you know, you used to work, you could say a 9 to 5, right, in the UK. And, you know, we're a little bit bound to the office, bound by high taxes. And what made you kind of want to change your own life in that regard?
Yeah, I love that question because it totally tells the story of where I was and where I got and how I got there. Much like probably everyone listening to this video, I was in a very traditional 9 to 5 job for a long time. So I did a very traditional uni, then corporate job kind of trajectory. So I spent almost 8 years working for one of the big accountancy firms out in London. I qualified as an accountant, as a chartered accountant with them. And I loved it up until the point that I decided that I needed a break. And so I took a very short sabbatical, where I literally packed a backpack and I went traveling Southeast Asia by myself. I had a blast. I had the most amazing time of my life. And when I came back to London, I just couldn't see myself going back to the same routine that I had for so many years. I just felt like I could do my job, not strictly prohibited within the bounds of my office. And so I started these lengthy conversations with my partners at the time. if there's any way that we can maybe have some time off, some time off the office where I could just work remotely, almost like what we do now. But back then it was completely unheard of and impossible. And the whole topic was like, well, I get that you're very eager and you're, you know, this creative person trying to figure out a total new way of working, but it's not really possible. At that point, I had to make the decision, okay, do I stay, do I go? And at that point, even though I really loved actually my job, because funny enough, for a lot of people who dislike taxes and numbers, I did enjoy my job, but I just wanted more freedom. I wanted more freedom to actually be whatever I wanted. I wanted to work from different places, pay less taxes, because I was starting to pay taxes at 40%, and I had zero control because I was just an employee at the firm. And so at that point, I decided, okay, I had a good go at this. It was fantastic, but it's time for something else now. And so at that point, I left the UK, I left the firm. I mapped out my options. I decided that I wanted to move back to Bulgaria, actually, because originally I'm Bulgarian. And so it worked perfectly. I lowered my taxes from 40% down to 10%, lowered my social security payments, which was a massive, massive financial gain in that sense. I was just able to start my new life and my first business in an environment that was very low cost, very supportive, essentially gave me everything that I needed to really have a solid go at entrepreneurship at the very early days. So now I essentially help people who are probably similar to you and I to do the same thing and essentially figure out what's the best amongst all these options that we have.
So in this day and age that we live in where people can lead these sort of flexible lifestyles, what are some things that people should have to be able to live this lifestyle like as easy as possible? Like what should they have before they even come to you?
Yeah, so very good question. And I would say the most important thing is having a very clear understanding of what the income sources will be. For a lot of my clients, they are business owners, so they have a business that actually is not tied to a location. So they genuinely have that opportunity to take their work and their home wherever they want. Being able to map out where the income is going to come from is very important because that determines essentially how that income will be taxed in all these different places that we're going to explore. And so it's a very important starting point. Afterwards, I would definitely... I always try to encourage people to really think about what lifestyle, how they want to live the lifestyle. And some people want to hop from place to place and literally not spend much time anywhere, which is fine, but it's a very different picture if you actually are looking for a home somewhere else. And so knowing how much time you're willing to spend in a certain place, or in general, how much time you're willing to spend in one location, it's a very big factor in our work together. Because when it comes to tax residency, to become a tax resident, sometimes there's a requirement to spend a certain amount of days, or there's a requirement to make the country your main home. And so these things are so particular that knowing where you stand and what your personal preference is, literally just for your lifestyle, is very important. I guess another thing that's always good to have, whether or not you're changing your lifestyle, is some savings. Because, moving to a new place always comes with a few costs around even moving accommodation and, having to find a long-term place to live. Immigration, of course, is also a cost. So just having a little bit of financial security so that you don't stress in that process is also really helpful. Knowing what passports as well you'll be applying with, it's also very important. We're more and more thinking about, okay, what passports can I apply for? Like, can I, for example, get a passport based on my grandma's or grandma's roots? Can I maybe get a EU passport based on inheritance? So there's a lot of people actually thinking about taking advantage of potential family roots that they have. And so knowing exactly what passports you will have at the time of maybe going for a new tax residency and in general for this lifestyle is very important, because the kind of passport that you apply with changes entirely the immigration process. And in some cases, it might make it easier. In some cases, it might make it actually not as advantageous. But knowing where you're at helps in a big way.
Okay, fantastic. And I know this will really depend on, specific personal situations and needs, as you said, depending on what passport you have, depending on your business, all of this. But from the clients that you have, what would you say is like 3 really popular destinations that people have been wanting to move to recently?
Yeah, very good question, and for sure it does matter from case to case. But what I do see a lot of my clients actually feeling more and more interested about are, for example, places like Paraguay. So Paraguay is becoming very interesting for people who are perpetual travelers in most cases. So people who are not really willing to commit to a place for too long, and they just want to have a tax residency that's actually really still low cost to obtain and doesn't come with a significant requirement when it comes to how many days you spend in the country. And so a lot of people choose that if they are initial part of their nomad lifestyle where they just literally want to go and travel. They want to go and travel, they want to have a personal tax residency somewhere, but they're not ready yet to commit to somewhere, say, for example, to stay 6 months a year. Another place that's becoming more and more popular now is definitely Thailand. I mean, for sure, probably a lot of us have already heard about the destination Thailand visa, which totally changed immigration into Thailand. It used to be that you had to apply for these really expensive elite visas and LTR visas, which are really good visas, but actually quite hard to obtain, or just expensive. And so nowadays, with the new DTV visa, they really lower the barrier as to who's able to obtain it. And now I do have a lot of people who have wanted to go to Thailand and actually make it their tax residency place. And now the DTV completely transformed that. I've had so many people going to Thailand just to kind of check it out if they can stay there for 6 months, because to become a tax resident there you have to spend 180 days. And a lot of people say, well, you know what, it's a big country, it's very easy to get over those number of days. And so a lot of people just took the opportunity to go and explore it, knowing that they now have an immigration way in. Taxes are also really advantageous. Thailand definitely makes it very welcoming, both from an immigration standpoint now with this new visa and just for taxes. And so I always encourage my people to get it as soon as they can, even if they are not sure whether they're ever going to use it, whether they really want to spend, 5 years in the country, to just get it, just because we're not sure how long it's going to be around. At least that's my doubt, let's say. I mean, the elite visa and all the other options, they're probably out there to stay because of how expensive they are. But something as low cost and just so good as the DTV might not be here for a while. I guess region-wise, if you focus on Europe, I do have a lot of people who want to move to Europe. I do get a lot of people interested in places like, for example, Malta and Cyprus, and those have been popular for sure. But I do get more and more people actually interested more in Bulgaria as opposed to Cyprus and Malta, because the islands are great for taxes. There's absolutely no question around that. But when it comes to having to spend the time, a lot of people actually prefer to be on mainland Europe, be able to literally take a car and go past the borders and explore other places that are so accessible. And so Bulgaria is actually becoming very, very popular because of the low taxes and because of the stability of the tax system. Okay, the government, I admit, there are things up and down all the time, and that's not, I mean, it's out there, it's publicly available. The one thing that actually does stay very stable are the taxes. In Bulgaria, there haven't been tax changes for a very long time. And so if you're looking for that middle ground between, okay, paying some taxes, because it's not a zero tax country for sure, still being in a place where you pay a reasonable amount of tax, you have stability or certainty actually over how taxes will look like for the next number of years, Bulgaria definitely is a good place. Cost of living is also pretty affordable. And so I get a lot of people who are definitely trying to get into Europe, both from within the EU and from outside of the EU, because they see it as this bridge place where you could have an upgrade of your lifestyle, pay a little bit of taxes for it, but still keep the tax cost to a fair amount. Yeah, those are the 3 places that I would highlight as the ones that have been quite popular in the last few months.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge with us. And for anybody who is looking to make an exciting new change in their life, but want some guidance along the way, what are the different offers that you have that, you could help people out with?
I keep things quite simple. So in terms of the ways that anyone can work with me, it's predominantly my one-on-one. So where I essentially map out, as we talked at the beginning, where I essentially handhold my clients through the entire process of making those big decisions, but also getting everything set up in the country of choice. Now, I understand not everybody is there yet, and there are a lot of people who are actually okay with the idea of kind of doing it all by themselves and just getting information from about the different options that they are. I've got a course that got launched a couple of months ago that really helps people with that question. It goes through a number of different jurisdictions that are advantageous for setting up your business in, and I definitely recommend it to anyone who's kind of looking to answer that initial question of where the business should be incorporated. I think Alina said that she'll put down in the description the link to the course, which you can check out and see if it might be something you'd be interested in.
And that is it, guys. I am officially a resident of Bulgaria. Obviously, I don't know, how things are going to go, but for the time being, I think this is a fantastic option for my current life situation and what I am looking for as far as lifestyle goes, especially being here in Europe. Like, I can't tell you how happy I am to be back in Europe. So once again, a very big thank you to Marchela for being the biggest part of making this happen. I would have been, head underwater trying to do this by myself. So I obviously do not take it lightly in recommending someone to help you with such a big decision, but just from my own experience, I think she is just amazing. So I will have the links in the description if you guys want to set up an introductory call, if you want to check out her course. I've done it myself. It's also very good. I would also love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever moved somewhere else abroad? What was your process like with immigration? And as always, I am sending you so much love. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day and keep being your own kind of beautiful. Bye, guys.